Hey chess friends, National Master James Canty III here with Chess.com, and today we have game of the day. With the white pieces we have Dragon, and with the black pieces we have Igel. Let's get right into it. Here we go. We have e4 and e6 of French here. Very solid defense, even played at the top level here. Of course, irrefutable in a way. There are some ways that you can go for white to try and take a little bit more risk and try to win the game, but objectively a very strong opening for black. Very solid with lots of counterplay and counter chances for both sides. D4 and D5 saying, hey, I'm going to just have my stake in the center as well. You see this a lot even with D4 in Queen's Gambit Decline, where we're actually just going to say we get the center too. We're going to fight for the center. So after D5, knight to C3 here is the challenge for Dragon, saying, hey, I'm going to play sharp variation here, knight C3. Usually the sharper variations where you'll see bishop B4 here, and usually knight to F6. C5 is a sort of a gambit, but usually not so good. So don't try C5 if you're a French player. At home, not the best. So knight to F6 here from Igel, saying, hey, we're just going to play standard here, develop our pieces, E5 and bishop G5 being main moves here. And Dragon actually chose the E5 move, which is usually one of the better ones. Already just gaining space in the center, why not, right? So after E5, there is knight F to D7, which is very nice. Knight F to D7, which is the standard move here, and we're just going to counterattack with C5. Usually you want to play on the side that your pawn structure points to, and this is very standard. This is a very easy way to understand what your plan should be. Black should play on the queen side, white should play on the king side, based off the pawn structure. So F4 here, of course, bolstering our center, making it even stronger, and sometimes after knight F3, moving the bishop and castling, we now already have F4 placed, so we can rook lift and even play F5 at the right moment if available. After F4, there is C5 from Igel here, breaking up the center. This is a thematic a pawn break that you see all the time in the French, the C5 move. After C5, there's knight to F3. Now, a lot of times you would like to have this knight here on E2 already, hence the move. Of course, F4 makes that different. You could play knight E2 instead of F4 to answer C5 with C3, but that goes into a whole nother sea of theory. Knight F3 here is a little bit different. You do allow a capture on D4. The C pawn is worth less than the D pawn because this is a center pawn, so him capturing actually just makes sense, but we do have a very strong piece on D4, and we have the E5 square as well, so it's not as good for black sometimes, but capturing should be a move later on. Bishop to E7 from Igel and bishop E3. We're going to just develop our pieces, very simple stuff, and A6, preparing B5. Now, like we said here, the pawn structure points to what side we should be playing on. Queen side for black, A6 makes total sense, making B5 happen, bishop B7, develop our queen side, and sometimes classing queen side. Let's see what happens. A6 and A3 from Dragon here. Of course, a lot of times you'll see B4. You're also stopping a potential B4 yourself. Makes total sense here. A lot of times you see this in the French, and in the, removing the knight and playing C3. So after A3, we do have queen to C7 here, putting some pressure on the file with a smile here, also getting the queen off the back rank, maybe even castling queenside. A lot of times you do see the queen come to B6 in the Frenches, but totally just say, hey, let's see what you do kind of move. Queen to C7, and after knight to E2, preparing the C3 move. Capturing probably should be a move. The reason being is if C3 does happen, white's just going to have a very, very big space advantage. And B5 does happen. In fact, there is no capture from Igel here, so white's just going to have a lot of space, especially after C3. The Dragon said, hey, you're not going to take. I'm going to just make the center much better. And after C3, now Igel chooses to take, and after takes, there's knight to B6, taking advantage of the weak C4 square. So if this knight gets here, you might be in some trouble, big fella. So you don't want knight C4 to happen. So what does Dragon do? B3, stopping it. You're not coming in here. I mean, you could if you like. I'm just going to take it. So B3 definitely stops the knight from coming in. And if B4 happens, we can respond with A4, pushing past it and keeping control over the C4 square with the B3 pawn and rook to C1, and you're done. In a lot of cases, of course. Let's see what happens. Now at B3, bishop to D7, just getting out of the way and developing. Of course, bishop B7 hits the brick wall, well, you're never actually ever getting the bishop out. So bishop d7 makes sense because potentially we could use it maybe later. Also, you do see castle and f6 and bishop e8 and rerouting the bishop this way or here. It takes a long time, but that's the problem here in the French, is always what they call the French bishop, which right here, this bishop's so bad, as you see, it's almost like a pawn here as it's hitting all the pawns on the light squares. Bishop d7, knight to g3 from white here, very strong move. I'm just rerouting my pieces to better squares. This knight was blocking my bishop, so I want to develop my bishop to d3 and figure out where this king's going. Probably not to the c file. I mean, that's just not style at all. That's GG. So you have to probably going to castle kingside, or maybe not castling at all, but then that just gives us a huge attack if we castle and play f5 and start sacking stuff. So after knight g3, we have a5 on the board. Black says, I'm just going to go for it because right now I need to push. I need to do something or I'm going to get squashed here. As white has space, I have the bishops. Now, of course, this bishop's not as great, but right now it's just a piece that we need and we're using, and it's off the back rank and not blocking anything. The file is going to be good. So if black's able to break through, he'll be able to have a good chance of doing anything. And black also wants to trade. In fact, a method would be bishop a6 after b4, trading the good bishop for the bad bishop. So that is not an option anymore. In fact, his bishop on d7 can't go to b5, so it's still bad. Now, after a5 here, knight to h5, very strong move, hitting g7, and we're about to go for it. This is about to get wild. Buckle up, guys. Put on your seatbelt, okay? We just getting started. A lot of chess left here, too. Lots of moves. So after knight h5, well, castles, okay, castling right into it. There is nothing yet. Of course, it takes 3 pieces or more usually for a successful attack. Usually great chess is about math, so it's all about how many attacking minus how many is defending. So we don't have enough pieces over here with just his knight, so we're just going to develop. We play rook to c1, okay, hit the queen. Why not with tempo? Queen d8, bishop d3, looking kind of scary. But of course we don't have anything yet. Bishop d3, a4 is on the board, and black says, hey, we're just going to go for it. Remember, what side do we play on? This side. Now, white's structure was pointing this way, but look at the bishops. Like, look at how the bishops point this way. I have a knight on h5. Like, this is not fun. This is not fun at all. Let's see what happens, though. After the a4 move, black has to go for it here. Now, in this position, it's white to move. Of course, you have many moves you can make. Black is definitely have stuff like bishop takes a3, trying to break through on the queen side, put the knight on c4, and maybe even queen is b-pawn if you do not get an attack off on the king. So after a4 happens, it's white to move, guys. What do you do here? How do you even handle this? Here it is, guys. Dragon said, you know what? You do you, big dog. Knight g5, let's go. Knight g5 and we live. You do you on that side, big dog. We don't care about nothing you're doing on this side of the board. Well, immediately right now, the intention is bishop takes h7. And if bishop takes g5, pawn takes, and then you're going to see something like knight f6 check, which is coming in there, and the queen comes to h5 and we live. Whoa, we can draw more arrows, okay? So after knight g5, there's g6 on the board, so g6 stops the diagonal. Okay, cool. Stops the diagonal, but here, I want you to push yourself here. Hopefully you did your puzzle rush and your tactics at home. Now, you always want to look for forcing moves and combos, especially when you got a cluster of pieces and pieces pointing. You got to figure things out here. You got to really get that inner Tao going on in you, that Mike Out Tao here. G6, white to move. What do you do in this position? Here it is. Dragon said, you know what? Hey, this knight is hanging, but I don't care. Queen g4 for the score. Do something if you like. Well, I definitely put some lines in here for you guys to see because this is going to be fun. Now, of course, g takes h5 didn't happen, but let's just see what happened. If it did happen, g takes h5, we have queen takes, immediately hitting mate. Obvious, right? So this is basically over. Like, you can't even stop this. So okay, that's not going to be a thing. But what about capturing this knight? When there's lots of pieces around your king, what do you want to do? You want to trade. So bishop takes g5, we get rid of one of the knights, and then instead of taking with the queen and liquidating everything, in fact losing a piece, we take with the pawn, allowing this to happen because now this is blocked as well. Takes, same idea, queen takes, okay, h7's hanging. You only have one move out of this to not be mated. Immediately is f5. So now we have en passant 2 different ways. That's kind of strange. You never have en passant twice. But here, g takes f6 is the best, attacking f7 or h7 still, and rook f7 being the best move, defending h7. Bishop h6, we're coming in, and then we're threatening queen g5 check, queen g4 check, same thing. The king cannot escape, so and we're also threatening, if king h8, we take the rook. So let's say you wanted to defend the rook. Logical move. Queen e8, check, then check again, and now puzzle rush, puzzle rush. Hope you did yours today. White to move, what do you do? Here it is, 3, 2, 1, bishop takes h7. GG, start a new game, big fella. Takes, takes, takes and check, I mean, and then king g8 and mate. Ouch, right? It's just gross, man. Hopefully you can take some of that into your own games. Now after queen g4, instead of any of that happening, black just says, I can't do anything, I can't take nothing, everything's losing. What if I just leave it alone? What do you do next? So a takes b3 and just says, hey, I'm not going to touch anything because if I do, everything's broken. So I'm not going to, it's not broke, don't have to fix it, right? So let's see what happens. A takes b3. After a takes b3, there's castles getting out of the way, bringing another piece into the game. Now this rook can be here. Remember, it takes 3 or more pieces for a successful attack. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, probably 5, 6, maybe 7, and we count the pawn because this is an attack here. I mean, this is insane. This is definitely going to be crazy for of course Igel here, and any human playing this. Any human playing this is probably panicking with the black pieces. But as the engine, of course, they're going to play on, and miraculously, believe it or not, guys, this is why you have a human evaluation and an engine evaluation, because right here is kind of equal. In fact, if you turn on the engine right now, you wouldn't believe that it's zeros and a little bit slight edge for black. Really? Okay, right. Yeah, we're just going to keep moving. Castles, after castles, there's b2 on the board. b2 attacking the rook, an obvious move. And then we play something like rook to b1, getting out of the way, so there is no queen here. In fact, white just doesn't have anything just yet. We're working on it, though. Rook takes a3, and black just says, hey, we're just going to keep going for it and act like you have nothing on the queen side, on the king side of the board. Rook takes a3, and now it's white to move, guys. What do you do here? Take your time. White to move. What are we doing? What are we doing here? Rook takes a3, hitting the bishop. Okay. White to move. Queen h4. Wow. Queen h4. You almost ask yourself, like, didn't he have that earlier? Maybe, maybe not, but queen h4 is on the board. After queen h4, of course, we're threatening knight f6, and then queen takes h7 mate. And of course, if bishop takes g5, oh my goodness, it's like gross. So h6, oh my goodness. There's like stuff hanging everywhere. This is insane. Buckle up. Hold on to your hats here. h6, knight f6 check. Okay, we in there. Here we go. Bishop takes f6. Now, in this case, you have many captures. Maybe not many. I mean, you do have queen takes, and you have pawn takes, and maybe trying to sacrifice on g6. Who knows? But here, white to move. How do you proceed, guys? What are we doing? Do we take the bishop? Do we take the pawn? If you're thinking and you're doing really well and you're actually really doing your puzzles, you're probably thinking this move right here. Queen takes h6, and that is the move here, threatening queen h7 mate. Now, there's honestly, guys, like 30 moves here left, about 30 moves still. So let's fly through this, and at least the important points here. After queen takes h6, you have to stop the mate. And rook here doesn't work because of check and then take on f7. So bishop takes g5 is forced. Bam. Now the file's open with a smile. Rook f6, rook f3, rook h3. Okay, bishop takes g6 is imminent. All these things are happening. So after f takes g6, queen to e7 getting out of the way. I don't have time. I need to be able to push this pawn and slide over so I don't get mated. Okay, queen e7, rook f3. Here we go. We about to try to go for mate as quickly as possible. And f6 does happen. When you have to play f6 in a position like this, you know you're having a bad game. Now, of course, if black can consolidate and maybe trade, we do have probably a winning end game on this side of the board. We do, in fact. So after f6, g takes f6, and queen h7, we get out of the way. Now, would you trade queens here? Would you trade queens here? Would you trade queens here? The answer should have been, hopefully you said no, because after queen takes h7, we just don't have a real attack anymore. I mean, probably, but not the greatest. There's stuff hanging everywhere, and we can always give material back. We already are down material. So queen to g5, and we live, threatening bishop takes g6 right here. So he says, oh, hold up. Let me get rid of another piece. And now here we go. Well, rook h3, bam. That's basically almost GG here. Of course, you have to sacrifice the queen because there's all kind of deadly threats like queen h6, queen f7 being the only move. Queen h6 could be fatal with queen h8 being mate. So rook takes e3. I'm just going to go for it. Now here we're going for a compensation type of thing with black saying, hey, you can have my queen, but I'm going to take all these pieces on the way out. So after rook takes e3, rook takes h7, king takes, and then queen takes. Take stock here. Look around the board. What's going on? In fact, yes, we have the exchange in a way. We do have the queen, but black has pieces for it. They're actually up 2 pieces here, but look at the quality of the pieces. A lot of times it's quality over quantity. Now, not all cases. Sometimes quality, you don't have any pieces, it doesn't not going to work. But here, yeah, you have 2 extra pieces and passed pawns, and a weak king. That doesn't work out. In fact, watch the rest of this from here. Knight to c8. Wow. Out of 4 pieces, 3 of them are on the back rank. What move is this? We're on move 30. Pretty rough, pretty rough. Knight c8, right? So after knight to c8, we have rook takes b2. Rook takes b2. Now we need to activate this rook. We had to get rid of this pawn because that's an annoying pawn. King g8, of course, getting out of the way because there's mates coming, there's checks. The king's safety is gross, and there's no pieces around. In fact, it's not even a piece. The bishop is still on d7. So for the French players out here, this is always the problem that you have in the French is that bishop, the French bishop. So king g8, queen h6 here, threatening mate, and we great. Only move, or actually 2 moves. You have hit this one as well, but that's just going to be captures. So we have king to f7. We're running for the hills. We're running for our life here. Queen to g7 check. You could have taken on g6 after h7 and taking, but this is more accurate due to the next moves. King e8, and now it's white to move. Of course, a lot of you would capture on g6, maybe playing g4, maybe playing h4, but what else is there in this position? Is there something else that you would do? White to move, try to figure it out. Here we go, guys. Here we go. This is what Dragon chose. Rook to f2, and what do you do? Now, of course, f7 being a huge threat, but you're like, I can just go king e7. Well, let's see what happens. If something like knight to c6, GG, start a new one. f7 is beautiful. This was the idea, rook f2. So now if you step off, that's obvious. Why are we still even looking at this? So if king e7, there's mate. Oh my goodness. Wow, beautiful. So you actually are forced to do something about this move here. So the only move was actually bishop d7. Gross. You could play f7 anyway. And then after king e7, this is the idea of moving the bishop, because now I can run away. King d7. Very smart, but white finds an excellent move here. Bam. Oh my goodness, everything's hanging. It's an everything must go sell. Everything must go. Everything's attacked here. Bishop d7. Thank you for the knight. And you can't move anything. Yeah, you're up material, but this is terrible. Now, and actually, it's not even up at material anymore. After b4, this is rook to c2, attacking the c8 knight, and then king to f7, stepping out of the way. And you know what? White just says, you know what? Just get this off the board, man. Rook takes c8. And we great. I'm just tired of this. Get rid of it. Takes. And now we have queen e7 as an imminent threat here. The rook and bishop, or should I say tall pawn, big pawn, whatever this piece is. It's not a bishop, right? It's sitting here, and the rook on c8. This is just terrible, with the king still having danger around the dark squares and nothing to really help besides rook e8, but you're just kind of chilling at that point. g5, making some love for the king and trying to run this way. If we can get the king into the center, and maybe use a rook and a bishop, we might be okay. And we can also, you know, sometimes fight for a win. But here's the check. Of course, the bishop's hanging right now. So king to a g6 here. And then a very easy move. Just take on d7, right? Just take on d7. But when you find a good move, look for a better one. And of course, as a human here, I'm just snapping the bishop, not even thinking twice about it. But here, there's actually a better move. Can you find it? What is the better move here? You could capture the bishop, absolutely. And we're winning with ease. But there's a better move here, and this is always a great quality of play to see moves like this. White to move. Here we go. What is it? What is it? G4 for the score. What a move. Just cutting him out. Hey, no moves for you, big dog. Queen g7 is mate. In fact, there's no way to stop what's going to happen. I mean, you do have rook g8. But here, this is what the engine shows. Rook to c1. Rook c1, king f2, rook c2. King e1. I mean, these are the moves where they say, oh yeah, it's mate in 11. But like, why is it mate in 11? Because all the checks you have to do, like these here, check and check. Okay. Oh, wow. Getting out of the way, king d2, bishop d7, and queen g7 mate, and we great. That was beautiful attacking chess in the French there. Of course, hopefully you learned something there on the attacking side of the French, especially with white, and what not to do with black as well. Hopefully you enjoyed this game today. But I'm National Master James Canty III here with Chess.com, and I'll see you guys on the next video.